What we've heard in this first hour of 24 Hours of Reality is information about the cost of carbon and its impact on lives and livelihoods in North America. Of course, this is a global crisis, and it starts with an appreciation for the fact that the Earth's atmosphere is awfully thin, and we are now filling it up with 90 million tons of global warming pollution being spewed into the atmosphere every 24 hours, as if the atmosphere is an open sewer. The accumulated man-made global warming that's up there now traps enough extra heat energy every day to equal the amount that would be released by 400,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs going off every day. Now, we live on a big planet, but that's a lot of energy. And it's difficult to imagine that that much energy multiplied by 400,000 is being added to the energy of the world system every single day. Well, here in North America, as we've seen during this first hour, it's been getting warmer. Last year in the United States was the hottest year ever measured with instruments. For example, north of Anchorage, Alaska, the temperature hit 96 degrees Fahrenheit, 35.5 degrees Celsius. And interestingly, only 10% of all this extra heat energy is captured in the atmosphere and on the land. 90% of it's in the ocean. We heard the story of Samantha Langelo. Just look at what happened the day that Superstorm Sandy hit New York and New Jersey. The temperature off of New York and New Jersey was 9 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than average, 5 degrees Celsius. That's what puts the extra energy in these ocean-based storms. That's why the seawater went into the World Trade Center Memorial Site. Deniers and skeptics said that could never happen, but it did. And as Samantha told us, this was just the latest in a series. 1 year, 14 months exactly before Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Irene caused $15 billion in damages up the Northeast. For example, in Vermont, infrastructure damage, this is what infrastructure damage can look like. Billions and billions worth of it. Last month in North America, Acapulco was hit by these record downpours. Lots of people killed tragically, and of course it impacted the economy and incurred a cost of carbon. People had to be rescued by water and from their rooftops. And we heard also during this hour about some of the tragic events that have occurred in Colorado this year. 2 months ago, the mudslides that followed the rain, the fires, and then the heavy downpours. And these heavy downpours in place after place strike people as just beyond anything that they've experienced before. Take a look at this downpour on the plains in Montana. See, the water that hits the ground doesn't originate just in the part of the sky directly above it. These storms often reach out 2,000 kilometers and funnel all that extra water vapor that the warmer Earth is putting into the air off the oceans toward where the downpour takes place. Here's another example in Canada, in Lethbridge, Alberta. And two guys in a condo underneath that storm when it came through took out a home video camera and captured the transition. And as they said in this video, they've never seen anything like this. 1 minute it's a peaceful, quiet street, and the next minute the street becomes a river as this downpour just deluges everything. And of course, these flooding events that result from such downpours represent part of the cost of carbon. In fact, in Alberta, during this storm, we saw the capital, Calgary, flooded to a massive degree. Interestingly, this is the headquarters building of many of the tar sands companies. Several parking levels and the first floor was flooded out. So they're paying a little bit of the cost of carbon, even as they're reaping huge profits from spewing more carbon into the atmosphere. The Trans-Canada Highway was disrupted, and going farther east, you see the flooding in Toronto and also in Quebec. We have seen these events all over North America. And of course, the same extra heat energy that's trapped by man-made global warming pollution that evaporates the water vapor off the oceans also pulls it out of the soil, creating these massive droughts in North America and around the world. Last year, of course, the drought conditions in the United States reached incredible levels. 32 states had emergencies. And look at the projections for North American droughts in the decades just ahead. Let me show you here. These white areas on the legend show the most extreme kind of drought possible. And look at what's projected for the Midwest, the breadbasket of the world, and for such large areas of Mexico. Now, you know, a lot of people say, oh, the scientists may not know what they're talking about. Well, unfortunately, they do. And the predictions they've made in the past have more than come true. In fact, they've been conservative and have underestimated a lot of these damages. So when we look at this kind of projected future, we see that the cost of carbon is still going up, and we've got to take action to put a price on carbon. The farmers are already paying the cost of carbon with lower crop yields and lost livestock. These areas in Mexico and, of course, in the United States, this agricultural expert in Illinois said last year it was like farming in hell. And all through the Farm Belt in Kentucky and elsewhere in my home state, we have seen the cost of carbon with lower yields. And these droughts and extra heat also have extended the fire season by 78 days in the western U.S. Just look at the projection here. In this area of Colorado, for example, they're predicting that an extra 1 degree of warming, which is on the low end of what they're predicting with business as usual, there would be a 600% increase in the area burned. And of course, we saw during this hour some of the consequences of big fires in Colorado and throughout North America. Colorado Springs this year and the surrounding area this year and last year, homes lost. The Rim Fire in California, which affected our precious Yosemite National Park, that's part of the cost of carbon. These brave firefighters putting their lives at risk, 19 of them lost their lives in Arizona this year fighting the Yarnell Hill fire. In many areas of the West, we have these apocalyptic images showing how the fires are just raging out of control. Here's the Strip in Las Vegas. What's over those mountains right there? Well, that's what was over the mountains. I was in Nevada when some of these fires were raging. Farther north in the state of Washington and farther north still in Canada and then down in Mexico. Throughout North America, fires represent part of the cost of carbon, along with storm damage, drought, floods, mudslides, the melting glaciers, the dying coral, the infrastructure loss, and all of these other costs. It adds up to an enormous expense. On the fires, for example, when the hotter years bring more fires, that's part of the cost of carbon. In agriculture, for example, we normally have crop insurance payouts, but in these drought and high heat years, taxpayers have to pay the cost of carbon with extra fire insurance. So it's time to put a price on carbon in the markets. Now, in order to do that, we've got to use our democracy, but we've got to deal with denial.
We don't know what those other cycles were caused by in the past. Could be dinosaur flatulence.
Dinosaur flatulence? Well, there's more sophisticated denial, like this from the head of ExxonMobil. What good is it to save the planet if humanity suffers? What? I don't even know where to start in countering that, but I do know we need to put a price on denial in our political system in order to get a price on carbon in the markets. Here's the good news, and we heard Dr. Kim from the World Bank and Dr. Fox-Spinner talking about it in this hour. The cost of photovoltaic energy and wind energy is coming down dramatically. The installations of solar electricity producing panels, they've been skyrocketing. This is almost like what happened with the computer chip industry and the cell phone industry. We're seeing these massive installations, not only of photovoltaic energy, but also wind energy. The U.S. added more than any other country. We're seeing it also in Mexico, and we're seeing it in Canada, and we're seeing the creation of jobs here in Colorado, in Tennessee, in Ontario, both in solar and in wind. This is a source of employment, and the new jobs are really burgeoning there. The coal plants are being canceled. So there is good news, but now we have to act, as President Obama has said, put a price on carbon, put a price on denial. It is time to save the future of our planet Earth. Stay tuned for South America in the next hour.